You're listening to The Curtain Up Show live on Resonance FM with me, Tim MacArthur, and...
me, Nathan. Come.
Right, it's time to introduce our special guest and invite him to share the soundtrack to his life. He won the X Factor back in 2009 and has since starred in musicals and released 5 top 20 albums, selling over 2 million records worldwide. Now he's back with a brand new single, so before we chat to him, let's have a listen. Get out your cowboy boots and disco balls. It's Joe McElderry with Baby Had Your Fun.
Foot upon the gas, release my runaway heart. Shots down, remembering how to laugh, gonna tear this joint apart. Fingers through my hair as the sweat runs down, gonna dance like a prince till I shake this out. Won't stop banging my drum, gonna paint this town tonight. Rinse every tear from my eyes, keep it moving till I feel alright. Baby, had you fun and you broke my heart, but you won't break me, no you won't tear me apart. You said don't worry my love, as you spun another narcissist life. I sense more than you know, and I could see your wandering eye. Turning it around, put it all on me. Blew dust in my face till I felt crazy. Won't stop banging my drum, gonna paint this town tonight. Rinse every tear from my eyes, keep it moving till I feel alright. Baby, had you fun and you broke my heart, but you won't break me, no you won't tear me apart. Can't tear me apart. Can't tear me apart. Can't tear me apart. Fingers through my hair as the sweat runs down, gonna dance like a prince till I shake this out. Won't stop banging my drum, gonna paint this town tonight. Rinse every tear from my eyes, keep it moving till I feel alright. Baby, had you fun and you broke my heart, but you won't break me, no you won't tear me apart. Stop banging my drum, gonna paint this town tonight. Rinse every tear from my eyes, keep it moving till I feel alright. Baby, had you fun and you broke my heart, but you won't break me, no you won't tear me apart. Baby, had you fun and you broke my heart, but you won't break me, no you won't tear me apart.
Baby Had Your Fun, and that's the brand new single from our very special guest, the one, the only Mr. Joe McElderry. And Joe joins us now. Good afternoon, Joe, and welcome to the Curtain Up Show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here.
I have to say, what a corker of a new single that is. It's sort of disco meets country, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we wanted to do. You know, I'm a huge fan of country music, and I love those kind of country crossover pop songs. So when we started writing material last year, at the beginning of the first lockdown, I just brought in one day like all of my references of people that I love, like Lady A, Carrie Underwood. I love like the way Kelly Clarkson kind of mixed the kind of country with pop as well. And we just pulled loads of references in, and we were like, right, let's make this song and let's throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink. And on paper it shouldn't work, but country meets disco meets kind of 80s. It's everybody seems to be loving it, which is great.
Well, Kylie did it recently as well, didn't she?
And it's really uplifting as well.
Yeah, it is uplifting. Yeah, and you're right. Kylie did do it. She did with the the Golden album. She did that with and I love that. I love the vibe and feel of that. And there's just something about the style of writing that country music does as well. It's very conversational and straight to the point. So we try to kind of keep that as well in it too.
I'm always fascinated about sort of the structure, because obviously, you've had a theatre background as well. But when it comes to sort of, the pop music or popular music, as they say, is it the same sort of protocols as writing down to write, say, a theatre song, or do you have to hit certain targets within the structure of the song? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really written a musical theatre song as such. I've recorded them, but I've never kind of wrote one. So I don't know in terms of writing, but I do know, like, when you go to write a pop song, it's all about kind of the hook of the chorus, and it's all about the quickness of how quick you get into that chorus or how it builds into it. It's all about the build into it. And you kind of want... With this song, we started with the chorus. I had the chorus idea, like, won't stop banging my drum. We're going to paint this town tonight. And we were like, that's definitely a chorus lyric. So we built the chorus, and then we went back to front and started on the beginning of the song. But it changes, it completely depends on what you're working on, really. And then sometimes, you might write a song and you might go, actually, there's not really a kind of chorus in this, but it's a brilliant song. But you know that it might not necessarily be a single, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So it's all about sort of engaging it and hitting it so people can relate to it and sort of tap. I think it's that sense, isn't it? If they tap along to it with their fingers or they're driving, whatever, then it's a good sign you're onto a winner. You mentioned earlier about musical, writing this pop song and how you got together and you sort of put it all in the space. But what inspired you to write it, and what inspires you to write generally? I
always write from experience, personal experience, or how I'm feeling. And this song was, I wanted to make, like, I've recorded a lot of ballads in my career, which I love doing. Love a good
power ballad.
Yeah, we do. Listen, it worked for Celine, didn't it?
Absolutely.
But I just wanted to write a really fun kind of breakup anthem. So I wanted it to be a sad song, essentially, you're heartbroken. But I wanted that kind of twist of empowerment and feeling like, I'm invincible and I'll be okay and I'll be fine, even though I'm sad. And I think we've all had that moment when we've broken up with someone where you lie on the sofa, you want to get the tub of ice cream out and put the sad movie on and feel sorry for yourself and mope around. And then you sometimes get that feeling where you go, actually, I'm not going to let this person make me feel like this. I'm going to, I'm still sad, I'm still upset, but I'm going to call my friends, get the drinks out, and I'm going to hit the dance floor and dance it out and dance away the sadness. So
absolutely.
We kind of, that kind of feeling where you are sad and you're not kind of denying yourself of being sad, but you're putting a spin on it and you're going to rinse every tear from your eyes and keep it moving until you feel all right.
I can completely kind of picture the minute we are allowed to back out again and we can go to bars and we can go to clubs, I can hear this playing, and it's, I'm not the sort of person that instantly gets up on the dance floor, but this track would get me there without a shadow of a doubt.
I love that. That's great, because we wanted something that kind of made people feel uplifted, happy, they could sing along to it and just give people energy, positive energy.
Would you say, Joe, in your sort of general existence here on planet Earth, that you are a positive person?
Oh, definitely. I'm very, when something happens, if I go through a sad situation or, if something goes wrong, because I always think it's important to say this, because I think sometimes being positive or saying, well, let's be positive, it sounds like you're just brushing over everything, and I don't do that. Like, I truly accept things that happen or have happened to us, but I kind of give myself a window of time, so I allow myself to feel the emotion, but then I have a cut off point. I'm like, right, come on now, it's time to, get your mojo back. Here we go, let's move on.
You talked about the influence of Fleetwood Mac certainly on this track, and you can definitely hear that great country pop vibe. But what about other musical influences? Growing up, was it a very sort of musical household? Were you listening to me? Have you got sort of influences that have been passed on from your family, or have you sort of like gone off and found your own sort of musical vibe? Well,
my mum's a huge fan of music and loved all of the likes of Michael Jackson, Celine Dion, Meatloaf, all of those kind of big Voices, George Michael. So I grew up with all of that kind of music around from being very young. And my family, although none of them are kind of professional performers, they've all kind of done bits and pieces in terms of whether it be for fun or just experience. And my grandma's brother was a singer, and my grandma and her friends did like a local comedy song and mime group to raise money for cancer awareness years back, when they're like social clubs were like a music circuit for performers.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, and they raised like over £150,000, which back then was like a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I've kind of been around it, but never, you know, I'm kind of the only one that's done it professionally.
You met one name that you mentioned there as musical influence, who is an influence to many, is the late great George Michael, who you had the amazing pleasure of performing with. What was that like?
Do you know what? It just an incredible experience, but also incredible kind of see somebody so successful as that, you know, and have such a long respected career, but be so nice at the same time. You know, he was kind of just an all-round really nice, humble person, and I think I don't know, I think I think people kind of misunderstood him a little bit, I think, from the press that he got and things. And I always just say it, like, I've been very fortunate to meet some very, very famous, you know, legendary people, and not all of them are always very nice. And I've met some not so famous people who are also not that nice. So when you meet somebody that is like an icon and a legend, but they're also a really nice person, it's really kind of, it gives you a lot of faith in a human. So I've got nothing but nice things to say about him.
Absolutely. You know what I found really fascinating was that Last Christmas actually never made it to number one until Christmas Just Gone.
Isn't that crazy? I read that the other day and I thought, are you sure? But I suppose it's because it's always around, isn't it, in the charts at Christmas and stuff. So we always just kind of think of it as always just being in the top spot. But incredible. And again, you know, so ahead of his time musically. Like, some of his songs, he was so ahead of his time in his writing and his style and production, and just an absolute talent. Like, and just, yeah, so sadly missed as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned as well about, you know, all the people you've met along. There were some amazing people and some not very nice people. But something you've been doing as well during lockdown is you've been doing your own interview series called Between Me and You.
Yes. So when like lockdown kind of hit last year, I thought, well, you know, a lot of my friends who I've worked with in the industry were all performers, and same thing, everything shut down. And I thought, well, why don't we all just like get online? So I sent text messages around to friends, and everybody kind of just jumped on it. You know, we had John Barrowman, Jade from Little Mix, Bag of Chips, Leslie Joseph, Faye from Steps. We had like really, really interesting people. And a lot of them are friends of mine now. So I think the dynamic of us being friends and each other feeling comfortable around each other. We both asked each other 10 questions and we sat for an hour. But the problem is half the time we were live streaming to hundreds of people on the internet, and we'd text each other after and you'd go, oh my God, I can't believe I've just said that. But it was great, and I'm going to look to do some more, because I really enjoy kind of talking, as you can probably tell. I enjoy talking, and I'm genuinely interested in the industry as well. So to get to talk to peers of mine who I know socially, but about work is really interesting.
Great. I could see you sort of like doing a chat show, doing national radio, you know, talking to people, because, you know, you've got such a warm voice, but also people feel very comfortable talking to you.
Well, yeah, and I think it's like, because if you're interested in it, and if you're interested in people, you guys will know from doing your show, you know, you have to be interested in people to get a good interview. And I love it. Like, I love finding out things about people, and, you know, and finding out their backstory and how they got to where they are and how they cope with things. And because as a performer as well who's gone through similar things, I find that really interesting, you know. So I can give insight, but I can also get a bit of insight from them.
Go on then, Joe. You can hijack the show, interview me and Nathan. Go.
All right, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good is this interview?
10. Absolutely. I mean,
absolutely.
You can, when you listen back to some interviews, you can tell when you know, it's like the gear isn't really in fourth, it's kind of stalling slightly, and you're searching. Whereas if you're just having a natter and there's a cup of tea on the go, then you're sorted.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a funny old thing, isn't it? Because I've never understood why people get annoyed by interviews. I'm like, that's the whole point of your job. Like,
Yeah.
And your interview is to promote. When you see these people, and I find it so funny sometimes. I watch Graham Norton. And you see some of the people come on and bless them. Some of them are so tricky, like with answers and things. And I think, why are you there? Like, why have you come all the way to go and get interviewed and then be really weird on an interview and like not answer questions? It baffles me. It baffles us.
Absolutely right. What's the next song you've chosen for us, Joe? And is there a why?
I have chosen a song from one of my favourite bands. And I went to see them last year at Wembley for my birthday. And they were incredible. And they have stood the test of time and just have the best song. And this is actually my all-time favourite song. And it's Fleetwood Mac's Everywhere.
Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac, and that's the song choice by our very special guest today, Mr. Joe McElderry. Joe, what made you want to become a performer?
It's a funny question, that, because I don't actually know. I just love...
You took a wrong turning in the job centre, that's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. I loved singing and I loved performing. And I just love that feeling of like getting to perform in front of an audience. But I don't really kind of... Like, I remember kind of loving singing, but I never kind of thought I would do it as a job. Maybe that was just because I thought it was beyond my wildest dreams. And then obviously when I auditioned for X Factor, I never in a million years thought I would win it. And then it kind of, obviously everything just went huge after that. But I always thought I would kind of, because I loved, when I decided I wanted to pursue a career in performing arts, I always thought I would just kind of be a performing arts teacher and I wouldn't kind of be in the public eye or famous. I never wanted to be famous. I just wanted to sing in front of people. So it kind of took me by surprise in a way.
So Joe, you obviously won X Factor, and since then you've done so many different things within the industry. What would you say so far has been your pinch me now moment?
I mean, I've had quite a few, to be honest. I've been lucky over the years. I mean, obviously the George Michael, getting to sing with him was a pinch me moment. But I think I get it quite often when I'm on tour, whenever I'm doing my solo shows and solo tours and you look out and you see people have come to see you and it's your show and your name on the door. And it's normally like just before the end of the show and you're doing the big kind of finale number and everybody's up and clapping and singing along. And sometimes I'll be in the middle of the show and it's normally when I'm tired, if I'm honest. I'll be on a really grueling schedule and then sometimes I'll just get it in a really random moment and I'll just be like, wow, like this, I'm getting to do something that I always wanted to do.
And am I right in thinking that you were actually on stage like on the day that the government announced that theatres and music venues were shutting down? You were doing a gig, weren't you?
Yeah, we were. I was at Cadogan Hall in London doing a concert and it was kind of a bit wishy-washy as to whether we were actually going to go into lockdown, so we didn't really know what was going on. And then halfway through the show, the venue staff came backstage to the production staff and they were like, nobody's to come backstage after. We need nobody has to go out a stage door. We're getting the people out at different times. And when I was like, what's all this about? And then the next morning I was due to go into the recording studio to record actually this song, and I said, you know what, I think I better go home to Newcastle because I think it felt like the world was ending, didn't it? It was weird.
But fingers crossed you will be back out on tour again later this year, right? September, is that the plan?
Yeah, so we've rescheduled last year's tour for September and October, and obviously as soon as we can do it, and as soon as we can do live shows with the band and everything, I will be there with absolute bells on. Listen, I've got the show rehearsed in the house. Nobody knows it yet, but I've rehearsed it for myself. And obviously I've just announced a series of more online shows. We're doing 15 online shows through February and March. And people can go to joemcalderryofficial.com and join us there. I mean, I know it's not the same, but it's better than nothing, And as we speak now, I've got me sparkly glitter curtain behind us.
I've seen it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly. We've gone all out. £8 off Amazon, next day delivery.
Bargain.
Bargain. Joe, what would you say has been the biggest learning curve for you since you won the X Factor?
I think the biggest learning curve for me has definitely been navigating the industry behind the scenes. Everything that I've done out front in the public and in the public eye, I've found really not easy, but I've found that I've been quite natural at that. I think learning how to be a businessman and deal with it behind the scenes in the right way, and also whilst not being whilst it not ruining your love for what you do, has been the biggest challenge for me, 100%. Because I don't like to be involved in all of those conversations, and I don't like to, I don't like being spoken about as if I'm a product. And obviously you are, essentially, because when you sign to a record label or when you sign to a show, it's your name, it's your brand, and they're investing into that. And I've learned now how to kind of keep a level head about that, but that's definitely been my biggest challenge so far, I think.
Of course, as well as the music career and the recording career and the performing as yourself, you've also done your fair share of musicals. And I remember reading one review when you started in Joseph. Somebody said it was the best vocal and stage portrayal of that role that they had ever seen, and countless people have done that show. Are there any roles in the future, maybe in a musical, that you love, that one day you would actually really love to, sort of, if you had a break from doing the music between albums, to go out on stage? And is there another role that you think one day you might not be the right age for yet, or maybe even it's not a role that you would necessarily be casting, but something you would really love to sing on stage?
I think I'd love to do Phantom, because I think it would be really challenging, and I quite like the idea of it being challenging. And I imagine it would be a really fun show to sing, like quite challenging and difficult, but in a really kind of exciting way. I'd love to. Do you know what? I'd love to just be in Wicked, because I love the music. I don't really know what part I would play.
Alphabet.
Listen, you're laughing. I would, if they offered me, I would actually do it. Just to be able to sing No Good Deed and Defy Gravity. I mean, they might have to pull it down a few keys, but we get there.
We make dreams come true here on the Curtain Up Show. We've done it before, so we could do it again.
I've got my eyes on Madam Morrible, Joe.
Oh, now that is a camp role, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Every time I see that, I just think that must be such a fun role to play as well.
Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. Before we let you go, what's your final song choice, and is there a why?
My final song is Halo by Beyonce, and I picked this song because I went to see her at Newcastle Arena when I was about 17, not long before I auditioned for X Factor. And that was kind of one of those moments where I was like, I hope in my career I get to come and play this arena. And then fast forward to a year later, we did 4 nights there at the same arena, and I had a very kind of full circle moment with that song. And I played it in the dressing room before I went on stage.
Beyonce, Halo, and that was the song choice of our special guest, Joe McElderry.